That's a personal story about how I got involved with the same-sex marriage in 2005. It was 5 years ago. I actually met my wife during this, so she's sitting here. So let's say my wife had a great role to play in this as well. And at the time, I was working at the House of Commons as a legislative assistant to a member of Parliament. And I heard about the legislation in the middle to change the definition of marriage from a union of one man and one woman to a union of one person. At the same time, we were also fighting a bill that would criminalize criticism of homosexuality and make that part of the hate crimes legislation. I thought we had a good chance of winning that one, but I thought we had a better chance of winning the marriage issue. I'll tell you why. Because it really was an apple pie issue, I thought. And I thought most of the members of Parliament would say, look, I can't go against marriage. I can't go against marriage. It's just too radical. It's just going to be too unacceptable to all those constituents, whether or not they're Christians or not, but I have to think about the Jews, I have to think about the Muslims, I have to think about these groups that might not necessarily be Christian, but they all think marriage is between a man and a woman, and it's kind of radical to think of it any other way. But I knew it was going to be a fight. So I took a year off from the direct political world here at the House of Commons, and I got involved in marriage debate. And after working with Concerned Christians Canada, I moved to the projects director for Defend Marriage Canada. The first thing I did, I was living in Calgary at the time, where the office was. First thing I did was I organized a fundraising rally in Calgary. Now, Calgary is a very conservative city, and it's a very Christian city. It's cities go in Canada. And it's sort of part of the Bible Belt that stretches from Calgary all the way to Abbotsford, BC, and goes through the interior of BC and southern Alberta. Extremely politically conservative, very evangelical. Very, if we have anything that looks like the deep south of Canada in terms of religious identification, that would be it. So I needed a place to have a rally. And what I did was I called up David Maines, who I had met during the previous election, and who said, if you need any help on this marriage issue, he says, call me. He says, because I think this is a line in the sand we cannot allow them to cross. And I'm going to fight this, and then I'll go anywhere, anytime to speak on this. So I called up David Maines, and he says, I'll be there. I called up and it's funny, and I always laugh at this because I was a lifelong anti-papist. And I called up Bishop Fred Henry in Calgary, and I said, how do you feel about this issue, sir? He said, I'm going to be there too. So I had a rally plan for Calgary. Where was I going to get 5,000 people? Well, Calgary is the home of some very large evangelical churches. Capacity 5,000 to 10,000. And I called the largest evangelical church in Calgary. And this place has a membership of 25,000 to 30,000 people. And I said, we'd like to have a marriage rally in your church. And I thought the answer was going to be instantly, that's great. What do we need to do to make it happen? The answer was silence. The answer was at least a minute of, I don't know. And I said, well, you're aware of what's happening. I was talking to the assistant pastor, and I said, and he said, yes, we know. It was the same-sex marriage debate. And he said, well, we have a real problem with taking an active side on this, because, we might have homosexuals in the congregation who are struggling with this, and we might be offending families who have homosexual sons and daughters. And we don't want to single out homosexuality as being more sinful than other sins. And I said, obviously they hadn't read Leviticus. And if they did, it probably wouldn't matter. But more importantly, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. Because they didn't understand that once this law became law in Canada, it was going to open the floodgates to other things that are happening as we speak right now. It was going to make something that was historically illogical, historically unacceptable, historically infeasible, overnight it was going to make it acceptable. And it was going to make a lifestyle increasingly easy to practice. And so I was shocked that the largest evangelical church in Calgary, the largest in Canada, would not support this. And you know, folks, I heard that from many, many churches. Here in Ottawa, a large church downtown refused to carry any brochures, any literature that mentioned this issue, that asked us to take a stand on it. And we went to an independent, full gospel church in downtown Calgary that ministered basically to the riffraff in the center of town, and they said, come on in. And they said, let's do it here. And we had over 5,000 people come to hear David Maines and Bishop Fred Henry talk about why it would be an historical travesty to change the definition of marriage. And I tell you, people were excited, people were rejuvenated, people knew that this was an issue that we had to fight. Now, we lost that debate. We raised a lot of money, we raised a lot of consciousness, but we lost that debate because the House of Commons voted to change the law. Paul Martin's worst moment as Prime Minister, unquestionably. And one of Canada's worst moments as a nation when that happened. But I think we learned something, and I hope there is a lesson for Christians. Now, next slide, please. So I wrote a lot of articles during this period. This is one from the Calgary Sun. Yes. Now, if you think there was no repercussions for me for taking the stand that I did, you would be mistaken. Even though the political party that I was fairly well tied to was opposing this legislation, when the debate was lost, I was essentially told that I had taken too radical and too local a stand on this issue. And I think, that doesn't bother me today. I'm glad I took the stand. I'm glad I wrote what I wrote. It's still all out there someplace. And I take pride in the fact that I stood up against this. And as I said, as Christians, we have to criticize those who are opposing what God says, even if that means taking a political hit for doing it. Next slide. I don't think this unfortunately is a little small, but this is why I don't work for the Prime Minister's office today. Because I criticize on social issues. And I worked on 2 leadership campaigns. I know him personally. And I would never get a job within the inner circles of the Conservative Party or the government of Canada right now because I criticize around these issues. I said, you're not tough enough, you're not strong enough, you're letting us down. You're not supposed to the report card I got from the so-called Christian right. So I love to show this slide now. For years it depressed me. I said, what was it all worth? This has essentially locked me out of the inner workings of all the years I put into politics, and what did it get me? And of course, I was looking at the natural, I was looking at the world, I was looking at the temporal, not the eternal. And I do believe God has brought me back into the sphere, and He's going to use my disappointments. He's going to use the things that have gone before, and He's going to use the energy I have today, and He's going to use the fire I have in my belly today to talk about these things, because that's where He wants me. And I don't care where the world wants me, I don't care where Stephen Harper wants me, I don't care where the Conservative Party of Canada wants me, I don't care where the government wants me. I am going to be talking about these things from henceforth, and I am going to continue to speak out. Next slide. Now, to get back to the present. Since I last talked about this, and this was only a month and a half ago at the Calvary Pentecostal, this has come to my knowledge. I don't know if any of you are, I'm fortunate enough to have children in the Ottawa, so I doubt it, we wouldn't be living here. But this is another example of how this stuff gets sold. Now this is going to grades 7 to grades 12. It means children as young as 11 or 12 are going to be asked questions about, are they bisexual? Are they homosexual? Are they transvestites? And believe it or not, they're going to ask them if they have had a sex change at that age. Now, if you're getting angry about this, you should be, because this is outrageous and nobody has brought this up for public debate in this country or in this city. I understand this is on hold, and not because the church is complaining in the city, but because the privacy commissioner in Toronto said this is an invasion of privacy. He didn't have any problem with the question. He didn't say these are outrageous questions to ask 12-year-olds. He just said this is an invasion of their privacy and of their families. And I think we should take a second look at this. So they're taking a second look at it. But let me tell you, I haven't even shared this with my wife. I tried to get some debate going on this. You have to understand, 5 days a week I wear a uniform, and I'm limited as to what I can do right now. I called up my friend Charles McVitie in Toronto, who was the president of Canada Christian College, and who I worked with on the marriage issue, and I said, you know, I'd like to get you on the radio to talk about this. And he said, I had no idea it was happening, because he knows about the Toronto school issue, but not the Ottawa ones. So I got a hold of Steve Maitland. I don't know if you know Steve on CFRA in the morning. And I actually had to get through Steve to another friend of mine who works on the show with me Friday mornings. And I said, look, I don't know where you stand on this issue. I said, but I think we need some debate, at least. We need to discuss it. And I said, ever since this has been raised, and I heard it on the radio driving into work, I heard it being discussed, and I said, this can't be. So I downloaded the survey, and said, there it is, yeah. No debate at all. Nobody saying anything. So Steve emailed me back, and he said, I will not promote the anti-gay agenda. Which, now did I just say, oh, well. No, I said, it's come to this. A conservative commentator, a guy who's so pro, he's so good on so many issues, decides he can no longer publicly take a stand if it affects the homosexual agenda. So I just said, thank you, we will stay in touch. What I wanted to say, and what I will say in person, is that if you don't want to promote the so-called anti-gay agenda, do you want to promote the anti-child agenda? Because that's what this is about. This is about the destruction of innocence. This is about destroying the innocence of a child. And you know what Jesus said about those? Woe unto those. Woe unto those who steal the innocence of a child, who do anything to those little ones who believe in me, because it would be better if a millstone were hung around their neck. Now, I think this is an issue we should be just a little bit objectionable about. And what is the justification in the school system for this? And this is happening all over the country, not just Ottawa. You know, they have so-called purple gay days where everybody has to wear purple to show support. What are you showing support for? Well, they tell you, do you know it's because the homosexuals in the school system, which I highly debate, there are such a thing at that age, that they really have made this decision to be homosexual, that they really feel they are in grade 7 or 8. I think it's just hogwash.